Welcome everyone to another CTC software webinar. My name is Chris Bircher, Director of Technical Services here at CTC, and today we are going to go over the family standards and family checker applications and show you how to take advantage of the reports that you receive and how to visualize those in a Power BI environment. This is a two-part series, actually, so today is part one, where we cover exactly this. This part two will be how we can connect to the CTC API and get you a little bit more seamless access to your data. With that said, before I get going though, I do want to add that we encourage you to ask questions if you're attending live using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar panel that you should have. I'll be monitoring those as we go, and we'll answer them as I see fit throughout the presentation, and we'll clarify everything at the end if I missed one. If you're attending the recording on our YouTube channel, which will be out in a couple of days, I encourage you to ask questions in the comments there. We monitor those as well, and we'll make sure to get you a response if you ask. All right, so let's get after it. So one of the biggest crazes and a very popular topic over the last couple of years is getting access to your data. It's been data. Most applications focus on project data, which is extremely important, and that's a big piece to this puzzle. But getting data out of your content, making sure that your content or your families are quality families and can support the needs of your projects and the data that you're attempting to extract, you need to make sure your content's up to par as well. So that's where family standards and from the CTC Nexus suite and family checker from the CTC BIM Manager Suite come into play. They both will check your content based off a series of criteria that you get to define and generate reports. Those reports are in Excel, as you'll see, so we need to visualize those a little bit more or find better ways to view that data and that information. So that's what we're talking about today. So we're going to show you how to use family standards. Actually, I should flip those. Family standards first. Then we're going to talk family checker. We're going to review the reports that are generated by both. And then I'm going to walk you through the process of getting this stuff set up and how to continue on with this so that you can review the content and the results whenever you want. So starting with family standards. So family standards is a module within the CTC Nexus suite, formerly the Hive suite or Hive package that you may be familiar with. Family standards is a module that exists in the portal, and what it'll do is run the checks on a library of content. And then there's there's a bunch of different rules and settings, and there are ways to make content unavailable to the user base if that rating is less than a certain number. All of the scores are based on a 1 to 5 scheme. So 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. And if the average of those results is less than, say, 2, that content will not be available in your CMS library. So it's all managed in the portal, and all of the results and notifications that come along with it are sent via email. And your emails will look something like this. It'll come from CMS family. It'll have a subject line of CMS family standards request or progress or results. And these are the kind of the contents of what it would look like. So you would, for the request, you'll get a larger email, and it tells you that you've requested a check, and what library you're checking, and how many families are in that particular library, and then give you kind of like a tracking number in a sense. And that is just to keep them consistent between other libraries that you may have run now. There's a nice, easy way to figure out what library it was from to, again, maintain consistency. If you wanted to check the progress, you can hit this request report link down here, and it'll give you an update on the progress. And really, that just means that it's going to tell you how far along in the process it is. Right? 32 of 189 in that case. And when it's all said and done, you will get a final email at the end letting you know that it's complete. And actually, at this point, the results will be attached to to this particular results email in a CSV format that you can download and open. And that is where we get into the demo part, and I show you everything. So this is the one. So this is an example of the CSV file. I have now saved it as an XLSX file that you would have received from your email from Family Standards. So it's just giving you everything that was checked. So it's a list of the families themselves. So the exact location that they were loaded into CMS from. Great way to find out if your content is all coming from the right location, like say the R drive on the network, or in this case, these were all loaded from somebody's C drive. And in one case, they're OneDrive. So ways to check to make sure that the content's being loaded in from the right spot. This is also pretty common if you're just doing a quick little test, like I am. But it'll give you the category, what version of the family was scanned, when it was scanned, and then you start getting into your scores as you get going along the line here. So we check things like detail level and all that good stuff, right? There's a bunch, right? I keep going all the way down to column AV, right? So there's about 50 checks that we're getting in this report. To get an idea of what these reports, how this is all set up, you go into the portal. So this is where it all begins. Right here. So in the CTC web portal, when you're logged in, and again, you need to, just to remind people, if you're not a standards admin or a org admin, you can't really do much on the standards tab here. I think actually it's standards admin really kind of runs the show over here. CMS admin, I believe, can do some. But there's a bunch of different roles you can set up. Really, if you're an org admin, that's a non-issue because you have control over everything. But on the standards tab here, you're going to have access to a bunch of different features. So you'll have access to the Ally application, which is the project-based standards right here. The family standards portion that we're going to talk about are the next two tabs. So we have a family rule set tab and a common standards tab. For the family rule set, this is where you get to specify a number of different checks to run. So do I care about the shared parameter use in my content? Are we supposed to be using shared parameters? Are we supposed to be using custom family parameters, or should they be shared? Do we care about naming conventions? And you can create various rules and invalid characters effectively, or invalid naming terms. And I'll show you where that's all done in a minute. And then including parameter grouping. If something here isn't important, you turn it off. It's as simple as that. So if you don't care about how things are being named, or how they are being grouped, or how parameters are being grouped, you can disable those. If it is something you care about, because it helps track things down and organized in a better way, then you should definitely leave those turned on. We have a check for file size. What's the maximum file size that your content should be? Right? Anything above that, maybe it's because we have too many types in the family. Let's turn around and build a type catalog. And maybe the file's too big and has a type catalog. Well, then what else is going on here? So it gives you an idea what to check if it needs to be checked. We have the ability to create checks for subcategories, whether they are used or not. And if they are custom ones, and you can go ahead and specify which families, categories get to have which subcategories and which ones should be used, which ones shouldn't be. Sometimes that's a good indication of what's a not in-house built family and it came from someone else and was just tweaked. Reference plane naming, that's a big deal to you. Leave it set. If it's not, turn it off. And then down here at the bottom is where we have the ability to exclude poorly rated content from libraries, right? So specifically this one down here at the bottom, what's your minimum allowable rating for content in your organization, content in your libraries? It's a 1 through 5, or 1, 2, and 3 are what we've used. If it's less than a 3, it's not going to show up in your library anymore once it's been scanned. If it hasn't been touched yet, that's okay. It doesn't technically have a rating, so it'll still show. It's only after it's been run through family standards. Then there's this minimum public rating setting as well for all of the publicly shared libraries that are out there. If they have been run through family standards and they have poorer ratings, we can go ahead and start shutting that off too. Whatever you change here, make sure you save it. There's a nice big save button down here at the bottom. You got to hit save to make sure that those checks will be run on the next iteration. Part 2 to this is the common standards tab. This is where you get to set up your parameter groups and which parameter types are associated with which parameter groups. And it's just a matter of selecting the types that you want and adding them to the group that you feel they should be in. Things like some of the dimensional properties can be in multiple groups, or text, for example, that's actually still in common here, but the text parameter might be in a couple dozen groups. That's okay. It can be in as many places as you need it to be. And this will take a little bit of time to set up because there's a lot of parameter types and there's a lot of parameter groups. So if something like this, you don't really care, you don't have to set it up, you don't have to check against it. But it could be useful, especially if you're getting into some more of the discipline-specific parameter types. For the naming rules, here they're just below that here, where you can specify what's okay to be in a parameter name and what is not okay. So, for example, if you guys use the hyphens or some brackets in your parameter names, you can mark that as being okay to use. If you don't like that used, pull them out of your list and make sure that they're in the invalid area. And that's just a good way to help flag things inside of your content without having to open every single one up. And again, it's just as simple as typing over here and specifying what the invalid part would be, for example. I'm just throwing my initials in, even though I won't see that. But that we'll just say that one specifically is invalid. And then just make sure you hit save at the bottom if you make any changes. For subcategories or custom subcategories, if there's a category or a subcategory that is used in your content that you need to, or that should be used in your content that you want to make sure is being used, you can go ahead and start to edit the categories and add your own custom subcategories. Get that out of here. So I could type in hardware group and hit add. And now that's going to be a subcategory tied to my doors category. So now if it finds hardware group there, it knows it's where I'm doing my job. If it finds HW group somewhere else, it'll flag it. And that particular item will get an improper or a lower score. But yeah, I mean, all the categories and subcategories are here. If you need to build the custom ones, it's just as simple as clicking that little edit button or the pencil and typing in what you need to type in. Again, making sure you hit save at the end to take care of everything. Once you've gone through the process of configuring your settings for both tabs here, for both your common standards and your family rule set. Oh, I forgot to mention one key thing. The shared parameter up here at the top. You have the ability to upload your own custom shared parameter file, your own corporate parameter file. You can either do that here, or you can jump to the master shared parameters tab and you can upload it here and set it current. If you set it current here, it will also be used in the common standards page, which will then be used in the next set of checks to your libraries. Just want to point that out, but you could theoretically just do it here. Then, again, now once you've set this up, there is one final setting that just allows you to enable the ratings or not. Right? Do you care about the ratings? Does it do anything else for you? There is a toggle here to turn them off if you don't want those visible in certain places. But we are going to leave that on because I'm going to use it today. So now we're going to jump to the CMS tab. On the CMS tab under my libraries section, this is a list of all the libraries that we've got created for our company. And at this point, I get to choose which library is going to get the check. Which one am I going to run that list of standards checks against? And it's just a matter of checking the box and then hitting to select it and then hitting the green check mark that appears. If you hover over it, it'll tell you run a quality check on the Revit family selected. And you can do one library or you can do multiple libraries. And it'll tell you then if you've had a successful check when that last was run. So on my page 2 here, we've got one done back here. And it's just shows you the date and time. So I'm going to go ahead and check my Revit content button here. And I'm actually going to do this one. I'm going to do my standards one instead. And I'm just going to hit go. And I'll get a little message that says, hey, we're about to run a bunch of checks. You sure you want to do this? Yep. It could take some time, right? You may not be the only one trying to get a standards check running at this moment in time. So it may take a little bit, and that's okay. The checking process does potentially take a while. Once it's had a chance to scan the content and figure out how many are in that library, the person who sent this is going to get an email letting you know that, hey, we're running a check on this many families. We'll let you know when it's done. And hold on to that email because it does have the, as I'd mentioned, it does have a request, a status request option here. So you can find out where you are in the progress chain. So be on the lookout for that email. All right. Oh, no, I want to stay here. So that's family standards. Next, I want to talk about family checker. Family checker is almost the exact same thing as family standards. They're very, very similar. Really, the major difference here is that family checker is in the CTC BIM manager suite, blue icons, not part of the CTC Nexus suite. And instead of checking against an entire library, you get to choose exactly which families are being scanned or checked, whether that's your entire library of content or maybe just your doors or your mechanical equipment, or maybe it's just 3 families that you built last week. That's the one where you get to go ahead and be super explicit and specific. All of your settings can be saved to a settings file with this one, so you can have multiple smaller checks. And again, the results are still provided in a CSV file, just like they are in with family standards. So, and this one doesn't have any notifications. You'll see this one just on your machine taken over. So let me just jump right into Revit and show you how that one works. All right, so this one, you don't need a family open, but you do have the option to do the current family. So from the CTC management tab, we open family checker. And with this particular app, it opened on my other monitor. Here we go. So If you're only doing the current family file, it's going to look like there's nothing there, and that's okay because you're just going to check the one that's open. But you do have a multiple option where you can browse and select whatever you want. Now, to set this up, you go to the options, and in the options, this is where you can specify your master shared parameter file that you want to use against your checks. And you get to go ahead and specify what your valid parameter groups and parameter types per those groups are. And that just, and again, just like we did it in the CTC portal, you find the parameter type, you select the group, and you can add them across. And in this case, it's just a press and drag with this one. So if I wanted to add specific heat to my construction field, I can do that. And if I don't want it, I can get rid of it. So it's a little bit, more fluid here. It's a lot of press and dragging, which, that's always nice. Naming rules, same thing. You type in what you want and what you don't want. Custom subcategories, again, it's the same thing. If you needed a list of categories and parameters to be checked against, you just got to make sure you add it. So if I go down to my, say, mechanical equipment here, oh, I've only got the one. Great. Let's try something maybe with a little bit more. Sure. Plumbing equipment, fixtures. We'll do fixtures. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to move it over here. I get everything. And then I can hit the pencil here to create my own. Or you can right click inside of there and do that as well. And it's just a subcategory that you can go ahead and define. Oh, let's do, I'm just going to call it basin for now. Keep it simple. And with the green check mark, we know it's a custom one. So there's a little bit of different visual indicators here. And then on the family rule sets tab, it's just like the family rule sets tab in the portal. Do we care about the parameter usage? Is it shared parameter? Is it custom parameter? Do we care about the grouping? Do we care about file size in the rating? Reference plane standards. It's all basically the same thing. Big difference here is I can save these. I can save it out. You can call it my settings for, we'll call it, let's just say master. But you can build settings unique to a particular category of doors, or for or a particular discipline. If you'd like, maybe you're a multidisciplinary firm and you want to have settings for your architectural content versus your structural content, because certain things matter here, but they don't necessarily matter somewhere else. Or maybe for whatever reason, we're sourcing different shared parameter files, and it helps to have potentially to have multiple setting sets, depending on what you're covering. So you can save those and load them up at any given time. So in this case, I'm just going to hit OK, and now I'm going to go pick some content to check. And you just go ahead and hit browse to the folder of content that you want to take a look at. I'll keep it simple, and I'm just going to scan some door content here, and pick and choose as much as you want. Again, you can do just a couple, or you could grab everything and do the entire folder, or I could have gone back to my super door folder effectively and scanned all the content and all versions of that content, up to, in this case, 2023, because that's what I have open. If you do try to scan older content in a newer version of Revit, it is going to do a temporary upgrade on those so that it can do the scan. That will make it take a little bit longer, so be aware of that as you're working. So I'm just going to grab a couple here, hit add selected, and then I'm going to hit check. And now it's going to do its thing. And at the end of this, I'm going to get a nice little report of these 4 families, or 5 families in this case, that I can review after the fact. Now it comes time to talk about reports and how to set these up. So the reports that you get that I've mentioned a couple of times, they're going to be a CSV file that you either get after you save it from Family Checker or that you got via email from Family Standards. Open them up in Excel, do a save as, call it an XLSX if you'd like, or it's a one way to quickly review the data just to see that you're getting some information that you already expect. For visualizing the data and doing some type of analytical review of it, we use Power BI, as many of you already know. We like it. It works pretty well. It's free, which is great. There is a paid version if you needed to share it amongst your organization. There's a ton of other options out there. Tableau is one. Google's analytic option is another. Domo is another great option that's super powerful. If you're willing to spend, or if you wanted to do a paid option. So there's a lot of options, and there's dozens else other ones out there that I didn't even list. So for Power BI, I'm going to walk you through a basic setup of this, get you started with some of this so you can kind of get a feel for what you're getting in a Power BI environment. We're just going to go ahead and turn around. We're going to take one of our reports that we get. We're going to add it to a blank Power BI file, and we're going to walk through how to get it to work and how to get the ratings to average themselves out effectively. And we'll build a couple of charts and go from there. And that pretty much will take care of it. So let's go back to this. First, I'm going to go back to one of the reports just to kind of review it again a little bit further. Again, so this is one of the ones that I've done previously, so that we don't have to sit here and wait for Family Checker Standards to send me an email. But really, what we care about here are these values that are listed from 1 to 5, right? So if it's blank, that's okay. That just means that particular check did not apply to that family. We don't want to give it a 0 because a 0 will hinder your average rating. So we just leave it blank. And that way, if it's a connector piece, most of those are going to be 0s on a door family, for example. You don't want that to bring down the rating just simply because they're not there, right? So nothing is not bad. Sometimes it would be bad, especially if it's an air terminal that didn't have a supply piece or a return piece to it. So that would be problematic. But at this point, you just want to make sure you have the proper file type that you want. Again, I saved it as an XLSX file for this. You don't have to. I think Power BI supports pretty much whatever you want it to support. So I am going to go ahead now and start a new Power BI project. I've got a couple of existing ones that I'll show you as we kind of get going here. I'm not going to take you through each and every possible setup, but I'm going to show you how to get it started, which is the important thing here. So let me do this. Brand new Power BI file. We're just going to go ahead and import data from Excel. So if you do start Power BI from scratch for the first time, you get a different window that pops up where you can go ahead and open an existing file or grab your data. I just had to close that, so I'm just using it from here. It's fine, no big deal. And you want to grab the report that you want to work with. So I've got a couple to work with here. I think it doesn't really matter which one I choose. So we'll grab this one. And then it's going to go ahead and start pulling in that data. It's reading through it all right now, and it's going to go ahead and present it this way. Now, with this, I see the file. I can get an idea of what I've got. Nice little preview of it, and I can just hit load, and get after it right now. Or if you know that there's changes that need to be made before we can actually get working on this, you can jump into the transform data portion and make those changes. There is a change that does need to be made right out of the gate to build out your average rating at the very least. So you can just jump into the hit transform data, which does open the Power Query editor. And now we can go ahead and build this out. So again, it's just coming in the exact order that was in that Excel file. So we just kind of keep going, we keep going. Some have values, some don't have values, and that's okay. Let me just jump all the way to the end because that's where our new things are gonna go. And the way this works is this. We hit, where did I need to add a column, and it's gonna be, you can use the custom column option here for this. And where did that window go? There it went. Give it a name. You know, you can call it, keep it simple, call it average or average rating, whatever you prefer. And now we need to specify the formula. And the formula itself is potentially quite lengthy. We need to specify what the function is and then which parameters are tied to that function. And if I remember this correctly, it's list.average. And then we have to go ahead and start adding all of the parameters that build out the average that we care about. So you can go ahead and grab every single check that is here to build out your averages, or you can tweak it a bit and only bring in what is important to you. So like things like detail level, I can bring that in. And maybe detail level 3D if you know, managing that is important to you. And then you just kind of keep going on down the line. You know, are you worried about the element visibility? I did do that right. Okay. So, and it's just a matter of going through and putting everything in place. It does take some time, and that's normal. Again, it depends on the outcome that you're looking for here. So I believe I already have mine done. So I'm just going to go ahead and instead of making you watch me do this, I am going to go ahead and just paste in my formula that I used, which is this one right here. And again, I'm including just about everything. Detail level, element, plan visibility, identity data, omni-class number, assembly code warnings, all the way down on through till referenced plain name, right? And then what's nice about this custom setup here is it'll tell you if you did something wrong, which is great because I know right out of the gate, I had already forgotten one of these funny brackets. So I'm glad I did this. Now, at this point, we can hit OK. And it's going to take that and add it here to our column. And it's doing exactly what I told it to. It's giving me the average rating on down the line. At this point, if there's any additional pieces that you need to add or adjust, you can do that. Maybe the rounding is too much and you want to go ahead and change how it's being or how it's working. You can do that. If you need to add additional steps, you can do that. If there's other pieces in here that you want to remove or rename or something, now is a perfect opportunity to do that. I'm just going to leave mine alone and come back to the home tab here and hit close and apply. And then, so now it's loading up the Excel file into the document. Again, I don't have anything created yet. There's no visuals. we've just linked up the Excel file. And now up here at the top, it tells me the Excel file. It lists all of the different values or parameter values here that we had access to. And now I can go ahead and get going. So this is where we can start dragging and dropping and putting things around. So if we wanted to go ahead and pull down, create a table of sorts, or a card or a graph or a chart. And let me just, let's start with the simple one. Family, file name. You can just drag that across. It's gonna paste it in here and then give you a list of all the families that were in that list, right? And if you want to start adding others columns to this, you can start bringing things in like family version, right? Now and you just drag it over there, and it's doing a sum automatically. I don't know why it keeps doing that to me, but you can hit that little drop down and hit don't summarize, and then it's just going to give you the version without a grand total at the bottom. I'm sure there's a way to change how it's defaulting in here. I don't know what that is. I'm by no means an expert here. But there's a couple of different things you can get into with this. Now, let me see here. I know the custom parameter that I made is this one. And I know that because of, oops, I want this card. It gives me the number, which is what I'm expecting to see. So I don't know why I got 2 here. I know I must have forgot to check a box, or I did something wrong here, but for whatever reason, it gave me 2 today. But I know this is my average, so I'm gonna stick with that for the moment. So I can get a sum, and then, what you can do, honestly, is, it's kind of, they're tied together just already. I haven't even done anything to do this. So I can grab, say, 4 families holding down control over here, and I know what the average rating is already. So you can already get some kind of cool little mini metrics out of this as you go. And the more content you have in your reports, the more you're going to start to get here. So I'm going to do another really quick one just to show you what I mean. I'm going to grab a pie. That pie chart. I want to create a new pie chart real quick, just for fun. And this will look a little cooler in the next example that I have to show you here. But to set up this, I want to set it up to kind of break down the content by category and by version a little bit. So what I can do here is add the category name to this chart, which is here. Put that there, and then I can go ahead and grab family type from up here and bring that into my values, and I can start to get a breakdown of the content that we're working with based on what's in my Excel file. Now, and then depending on what you've picked or what version, you can make another card that is family version and not the sum of family version. I think I just want, no, I didn't want the card. I wanted something different. Hold on. I want this guy. And don't summarize. Oh, they're all 2023. What I was going to say was, if you had some 2020s, you could, oh, I do, look at that. You can switch back and forth between the versions, and then all the tables are starting to adjust here. So now, looks a little bit, you can have determine which ones you're seeing based off different pieces here. And then I'm going to switch this up a little bit. I want to show another BI file that I've done. Here it is. Similar to what I was trying to just put together now. But there's a couple of different things you can do, right? Like maybe you want to find the worst families in your list. This is a little bit more of a longer list. It's got additional categories here. And I can find out which family, or specifically which ones were not good. And I didn't rename any of my headers yet. Obviously you can, it's all done through the, some of the graphic overrides over there. But you can figure out what the worst ones is. And mine are all grouped together. I got more than 10 here because they all have an average of 1. So it's showing me all the really, really bad ones, basically is what it's doing. But I can come over here and figure out, okay, in my generic models category, how many are really bad? Right? So I've got quite a few bad ones, but I got some good ones here too. And I don't know, I had a little fun kind of putting this together and getting this one going. But this particular one, I just used the average rating that I had put together before and the uniqueness of the individual files themselves, just the count of them, right? By category, then with this extra little piece here kind of functioning as a linked slider in a way. You can go even further than this if you need to. And I've got another example that shows that a little bit, and we'll do more of that in the part 2. And then I just built one that shows everything, right? So in this case, I do have more families that I scanned, and I've got the average for all of them at a 2.47. And again, see, if it's blank, it's just not part of its average, which is okay. And I just listed everything here that you have access to. So this is it's a lot. It's a long list. There is quite a bit that is being reported on and recorded that you have access to. And I will throw out there that because there aren't anything being provided today as far as an example Power BI file, if you would like an example, just ask. I will send you this copy so that you can set it all up. Right now, it is explicitly tied to this spreadsheet. There is a way to make it so that it can be any spreadsheet. And it can, well, technically it can be right now. And if I go back to this guy, right now, if I sent you this file, you would have to go ahead and hit the data source settings and change the file path that's being used, which works, right? But then it's I feel like it's one extra step, right? The other option is via edit parameters, which is how the rest of our stuff works. And if you wanted to set something like that up yourself, you could by going into the transform data window again and adding a new parameter called, say, Excel file path or something along those lines, right? Or something to that level. And it's just a text property with a, say, default value of the C drive. Oops, I didn't type that in right. C drive, just to start it. But then you need to add it to your fields so that it knows where to go to find the information. Now, I believe if I grab this and open up the advanced editor, it's looking for an explicit Excel workbook. Instead of being Excel workbook, I would change it to the Excel file path for the parameter, and then I will be able to go ahead and specify what that parameter is. Now, because I didn't paste it, well, maybe I can just type it in. Nope, I can't. Can I? I sure can. That's what I thought. Excel file path. There we go. And then that's a new parameter then, and I should be able to go ahead and type it in. I'm going to go ahead and make sure that that happens on the data set so that when you get, and see, I missed a step, of course I did. Or it's because it doesn't have an actual file path, but that's okay. So I'm going to make sure that this is done properly for you when we send it out. You're not going to have to deal with my mistakes. So I'm just going to go ahead and not save anything. Like I said, if you need it and you want a copy of our stuff, if you send an email to info@ctcsoftware.com, I will send you a copy of that Power BI file with a little README that basically just explains, again, how to map it to your own Excel file. And with that said, I want to thank you all for attending today. It's been a pleasure. Hope some of this was meaningful for you and you can put it to good use today. And look forward to seeing you guys at the next one, at part 2, where we will discuss the next level of this and how to tie into the CTC reporting API to make the access to your content and your data a little bit more seamless. Thanks.